Hello everyone. In today's session, we are going to talk about on a topic, teaching pronunciation. In this session, we will discuss the importance of pronunciation in ESL classrooms and understand the relation between pronunciation and intelligibility. Then, we will explore the various difficulties of teaching and learning pronunciation. At last, we will understand when and how to teach pronunciation in our English language classrooms. Here, we will look at few activities and techniques for teaching pronunciation in the English classrooms. If we consider our English language classrooms, the English teachers allot maximum time to improve students' grammar, vocabulary, reading, writing, listening and speaking skills. The reasons for giving much priority or allotting maximum time for teaching language skills and language components might be their objective of teaching language. And the main objective could be to improve students' both receptive and productive skills. It is also a well-known fact that many times the teachers make little attempt or no attempt to teach pronunciation. There are numerous reasons for this issue. The possible reasons like they might be nervous of dealing with sounds, stress and intonation patterns. Perhaps this could be their lack of understanding about the content of pronunciation. The other reason could be they may have a notion that students acquire and enhance the knowledge about pronunciation in the course of their studies. For this set of teachers, pronunciation is an act of incidental learning and they might not consider it as teaching learning process. However, we as teachers should accept that in our classrooms, some students notice the variety of pronunciation and others do not. So, at this point of time, we need to make an extra effort to help the students understand about pronunciation. So, the question is, how should we deal this topic? We will tackle this question in few minutes. Many experts, educationalists and research scholars believe that teaching pronunciation not only makes students aware of different sounds like vowels, consonants and diphthongs or some features like place of articulation or manner of articulation, but it helps to enhance the students' speaking skill. In a way, teaching pronunciation helps the students to develop their speaking as well as their listening skills. Now that we got an idea about the importance of pronunciation, let us see how pronunciation and intelligibility is connected. Before we understand the term intelligibility, we need to answer a basic question. How good our students' pronunciation ought to be? What I mean to ask is, should they sound exactly like British or American speakers, or is it enough to have native variety like Indian English? I guess each one of you are thinking about this question, and I believe this question will lead to numerous contradictory responses depend on individual teachers' perception on use of pronunciation. And the use of pronunciation can be in the classroom as well as in real world communicative life. I think the question about the degree to which students acquire perfect pronunciation seems to depend on their attitude to how they speak and how well they hear from the teachers, classmates, parents and other multimedias like television, radio and so on. So, they might sound like foreign or native speakers, or they might have their own variety. Under the pressure of such global foreign variety, political Indian variety or personal individual consideration, it has become customary for language teachers to consider intelligibility as the prime goal of pronunciation teaching. But what actually the term intelligibility is, or how can we define the term intelligibility here? Intelligibility is an extent to which a listener actually understands an utterance or message. Here, the word intelligibility implies that student should be able to use pronunciation which is good enough for them to be always understood. So, intelligibility is learners understanding speaker's message where speaker conveys sensible information to the listener. If the speaker's pronunciation is not up to the standard, then the listener can receive wrong information, which can further lead a communication gap between a speaker and the listener. This is a serious issue because it hinders the communication between two persons and the exchange of information cannot be effective. We can say there will be a lack of communication here. So, if intelligibility is the goal of the teachers, then it suggests that some pronunciation features are more important than others. Some sounds, for example, have to be right if the speaker is to give their message across. For example, let's consider two words here, the words like ship and sheep. If student utters this in the same way without making any differences between short and long E vowel, as in ship we have short vowel E and in sheep we have long vowel E, then there is a chance to receive wrong information. Here use of inappropriate sound of short vowel E as in ship and long vowel E as in sheep have direct association with the meaning of these two words, where one stands for the object and other indicates the animal kingdom. So, to understand these words, we need to use appropriate sounds while uttering the words to convey our message effectively. Sometimes these individual sounds can be understood through context, but there is a greater chance where times the listener get confused and misunderstood. If we talk about the use of stress and intelligibility, many scholars believe that for intelligibility, especially when we speak, it is important to make stress on words and phrases. For example, if we observe British and American accent, they always stress on words and phrases to convey their message. This will help them to emphasize on important parts of message where the listener can understand it. It is also found that intonation and intelligibility are interrelated. They are related in terms of carrying the intention of the speaker. Like the varying pitch of the voice indicate different messages and meaning to the listener. Now that we got an idea about the intelligibility, in the next module, let us discuss a few challenges for teaching and learning pronunciation in our English classrooms. Generally, there are three particular problems occur while teaching and learning pronunciation. First challenge is what student can hear. Some students have great difficulty hearing pronunciation features which we want them to reproduce. For example, the speaker of different first languages have problem with different sounds, especially with wa and va for Indian speakers. If the student cannot make such distinctions, they will find it almost impossible to produce the two different English phonemes. Here phoneme is a smallest sound unit. There are two ways of dealing with this issue. In the first place, we can show student how sounds are made through demonstration, diagrams and explanation. But we can actually train the students' ears and help them to speak correctly. The second issue is what students can say. As we all know that all babies are born with the abilities available to human beings. But as we grow and focus in one or two languages, we lose the habit of making some of those sounds. Learning a second or foreign language often presents us with the problem of physical unfamiliarity, like the actual physical difficulty to make the sound using particular parts of the mouth, tongue, nasal cavity. To consider this problem, we need to be able to show and explain exactly where sounds are produced. For example, where is the tongue in relation to the teeth? What is the shape of the lips when uttering certain vowel sounds? The third problem for teaching and learning pronunciation is the question of use or not to use phonemic symbols. According to many educational experts, it is perfectly possible to work on the sound of English without ever using any phonemic symbols. We can get students to hear the differences, say between sheep and cheap or between ship and sheep, just by saying the words enough times. There are other reasons for using phonemic symbols too. Paper dictionaries usually give the pronunciation of head words in phonemic symbols. If students can read such symbols, they can know how the words is said even without having to hear it. Of course, online and CD-ROM dictionaries have recordings of words being said. But when both teachers and students know the symbol, it is easier to explain what mistake has occurred and why it has happened. We can also use the symbols for pronunciation tasks and games in our classroom teaching. Some teachers complain that learning symbols places an unnecessary burden on students. For certain groups, this may be true, and the level of strain is greatly increased if they are asked to write in phonemic script. But if they are only asked to recognize rather than produce the different symbols, then the strain is not so great, especially if they are introduced to the various symbols gradually one after the other, than all at once. So far we got understanding about different problems related to teaching and learning pronunciations. Now let us answer the question, when should we teach pronunciation? Just as with any aspect of language, grammar, vocabulary and so on, teachers have to decide when to include pronunciation during their teaching. There are a number of alternatives to choose, and today's session we will discuss only two alternatives. First, discrete slots. Some teachers insert short separate bits of pronunciation in their lesson itself. Over a period of weeks, they work on all the individual phonemes either separately or in contrasting pairs. At other times, they spend a few minutes on a particular aspect of intonation. Such separate pronunciation slots can be extremely useful and provide a welcome change of pace and activity during a lesson. Many students enjoy them, and they succeed precisely because we do not spend too long on any one issue. Second alternative is integrated phases. Making pronunciation the main focus of a lesson does not mean that every minute of that lesson has to be spent on pronunciation work. Sometimes students may also listen to a longer recording, working on listening skills before moving to the pronunciation part of the sequence. Sometimes they may look at aspects of vocabulary before going on to work on words, stress, sounds and spellings. So, it is better if teachers integrate pronunciation with the language skills such that the context provide opportunity to enhance their knowledge about pronunciation. Now it's time to observe few activities for teaching pronunciation. We can design numerous activities for teaching different aspects of pronunciation. For today's session, we will observe few activities for teaching individual sounds in 4 different levels of practice. 1. Control practice. 2. Guided practice. 3. Communicative practice, and at last a demonstration. First, control practice for teaching individual sounds. In that, we can use one technique, drill or repetition. Here, teacher gives a set of different words focusing on vowels or consonant words and asks the students to repeat after teacher's utterance, and each word can be repeated several times. You can look at the set of words given in the slides. For example, teacher reads and learners repeat. Let's first read all the words first. Sing, fish, was, judge, myth, match, crash, face. Teacher can take individual sound and repeat it twice or thrice, depend upon the level of the students. This activity is mainly focused on the practicing consonant sounds. You can use other words with vowels and diphthong sounds and make the learners to practice as many times as possible. Second techniques for practicing individual sound is the use of minimal pair activity. Here, a pair of words with one phonemic or one smallest sound unit should be differ. For example, cat, bat, ride, road are minimal pairs, because if we analyze the pair cat, bat, it differs from ka and ba sound, and the both ka and ba are consonant sounds at the initial position of the two words. Let's again repeat it. Cat, ka at initial position, bat, ba at initial position. In the same way, ride and road, these two words are different at the middle position, which focuses on the diphthongs. Ride, eyed. You can observe eyed at the middle position. Road, owed. Even here you can observe it in the middle position. Owed, ow, ow. We can also give a few tongue twisters, bingo games, charts and other activities for controlled practice of individual sounds. Let's look at some guided activities. What I mean is, these activities are slightly less controlled activities to learn the isolated sounds. For example, we can give information gap activities. Let's say students get 2 versions of monthly calendar, each containing different piece of information about a given individual plans. Here, students simply read aloud sentences or short dialogues focusing on the articulation of a particular sound or sound contrast. Let's look at the activity. We are considering hypothetical plan of a famous Indian actress Priyanka Chopra. To do this activity, teachers would divide students into pair, then give each members of the pair a different version of the calendar. Let's say version A and version B. Then students fill in the missing information by asking each other question about the blank date on the calendar. Look at the version A in the slide. Some information about the actress activity on certain days are given in the calendar. In the same way, version B has different information about the same actress on different days in comparison with version A, and version A does not give that information. Like in version A, 1st of April the actress celebrates her friend's birthday, which version B doesn't contain. Using this activity, we can frame sample questions that student A might ask, like, what are Priyanka Chopra's plan on April 2nd? Then the partner can respond saying that she is busy in movie shoot at Hyderabad. In the same way, the student who has version A can ask other questions like, is she busy on this 16th? If yes, what is she doing? Or what are her plans for April 23rd? If we observe the information given in the version A, mainly it focuses on the alveolar sound or alveolar consonant sounds L and R. In the same way, the version B gives information about ing. It's a consonant velar nasal sound. This kind of guided practice gives opportunity for students to practice the individual sounds in the context. Next, we have communicative practice activity. Here, students are provided with a context and keywords that contain the targeted sounds. First, we should divide the class into small groups, giving each group a list of words, as in the slide, and ask them to create group stories by selecting their favorite words from the list. Let's read the task. Task: in your group, choose 8 words from the list below, then create story using these words in any order. You can observe a set of words given to highlight R and La sounds. As each group tells its story, the student in other group listen and check off which words on the list were used. They also check whether these words were pronounced correctly and whether they make sense within the context of the story. As a follow-up activity, a different group can try to tell the story using the words they checked as a guide. Let's look at a sample story created by the students. Sample story with L and R alveolar consonant sound. Let's consider we divided a group of 4 students. Then the student 1 will contribute the first part of the story. Last summer, my friend Eileen and I went to Hyderabad. Then the second student will continue it. Eileen had a long list of things she wanted to see. The third student, our plane arrived late. Then the last student, then our taxi took the wrong road and we had to walk 5 long blocks carrying a head load. What a terrific beginning. At last, we can invite or select one student to read complete story. Then it becomes like this. Last summer, my friend Eileen and I went to Hyderabad. Eileen had a long list of things she wanted to say. A plane arrived late, then our taxi took the wrong road, and we had to walk 5 long blocks carrying a heavy load. What a terrible beginning. If you listen, this group has used the words like Eileen, long, list, arrived, late, wrong, road, load. If we think that the students are advanced, then we can allow them to perform some role plays. This is another form of communicative practice. These interactions can be later audio or videotaped and played back for self and peer correction. Although the focus is clearly or more on meaning than on form, in such an activity, students can be asked to concentrate on the particular sound being practiced. Here, feedback can also be focused on the selected consonant distinctions. Apart from controlled, guided and communicative activities, we can also give demonstrations of each sound where students are supposed to observe the position of tongue or lips, either watching video or observing teacher's articulation. Let's look at a demonstration given by Gilbert's mirror test. This test will help us or our learners to distinguish between n and l. Here we are trying to make distinction between nasalized and non-nasalized sounds. Teacher will give instructions and students follow accordingly. This is how demonstration goes. Look at the slide. Hold the mirror under your nose and say the sound n strongly. Quickly look at the mirror and you should see a cloud. Now clean the mirror and try out the same procedure using the sound l. Say sound l and quickly look at the mirror. This time you should not see a cloud. If you look at the two figures together, we find the differences between the use of n and la sound. Many educational experts believe that a mirror is an effective way of showing learners how their air comes through the nose for nasal sounds such as n. Since the air comes out through the mouth for la sound, we do not find cloud on the mirror. There are many such experiments to understand English sound system. As like teaching individual sounds, we can also design activities for teaching connected speech sounds, stress, rhythm and intonation in controlled, guided, communicative and demonstrative activities. Let's summarize today's program. The session described the importance of pronunciation in classroom teaching. It discussed briefly about the relationship between pronunciation and intelligibility. Then we tried to understand the challenges for teaching and learning pronunciation. At the end, we explored few techniques for teaching individual speech sound in both contextualized and decontextualized activity. I would like to conclude the session saying, teaching pronunciation helps to improve both speaking and listening skill. So, use of technology like audio and video tapes, songs, movies, movie clippings, listening or watching interviews, conversations, debates and so on. This is integrated with our language skills and teaching material, then we can help learners in appropriate use of pronunciation in their communication. Thank you.